My special guests today are two top football soccer coaches who've put together an exciting program in Houston, Texas, which is a fantastic opportunity for youngsters out there to take part. I'd like to welcome back to the show the president of Celtic FC America and Houston Hurricanes Soccer Club, originally from Dublin and Ireland, and has been playing and coaching in the United States since 1985, Mr. Brendan Keys. Brendan, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks for having me back.
Brendan's been on the show more than me. Joining Brendan today is a former Premiership footballer who began his career at Luton Town before spending 4 years at Tottenham Hotspur, 6 years at Norwich City, and later played for Charlton Athletic. He was also a Republic of Ireland international. I'd like to welcome to the show Mr. Gary Doherty. How are you doing, Gary?
Yeah, very well, thanks, Joe. Thanks for having me, mate.
This is a great opportunity. And these camps are open to boys and girls from the ages of 8 to 17, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
boys and girls.
I mean, it's a fantastic opportunity for both the parents and the kids to be involved in this and for the kids to be coached by you two guys. So, Brendan, I'll start with you. How did the project come about?
Well, I've been doing camps in Texas, Joe, as you know, over the last, 30-odd years. And I'd met Gary, I don't know, going back, about 8 years ago, Gary?
That's right, yes. Yeah, it would be.
7, 8 years ago. And, going forward, Gary had come over and helped me out with the Hurricanes, even though it was for a very short period of time. It had a big impact on myself and the players going forward, obviously, with his experience playing in the Premier League, the highest level of football in the world. Them young kids from 18, 19, 20 just really looked up to him and hung on his every word. So that was fantastic to have someone of that stature, over with a minor league club like ourselves, So that's so going forward, it was a great idea. I asked Gary, would he be interested, as he was doing soccer camps in America already, would he be interested in coming to Texas? And it was hard to get him. I've asked him over the last few years. Finally, he agreed to come down and do this with us. And it's a great, great opportunity for, young players, boys and girls, to get trained from a former Premier League player and a guy that's in his own right a very good youth coach. He's been coaching now for, Gary will tell you more about that, for about 7 or 8 years.
That's what I was going to ask you, Gary. When did you begin coaching?
I started probably towards the end of my career when I started doing my badges. So I retired at around 35. But it was always my plan to get to America. So it was never a case that I could take a job at a club in England because the end goal was always to leave for America. Just unfortunate the visa took a little while to get and stuff like that. But so I was pretty much coaching towards the end of my career. Gaz Ainsworth let me do a few sessions and stuff with the reserves and what have you at Wickham, and then obviously the badges, and then the main objective was always to get myself to America once I retired to start my kind of coaching career.
It was you, Brendan, that actually brought Gary over then? In the beginning?
Yeah. Initially, I mean, we thought I kind of helped him out a little bit, hooked him up with a lawyer over here. I don't know if he ended up using that lawyer in the end or not, but yeah, I helped him out with some paperwork. He did some coaching over here, so he was entitled to some of the badges that he did over here with us locally in Texas. Yeah. And of course, he went and got the main badges and UEFA badge, I believe, in Europe and England. I think he took it, so he's more than qualified. Probably holds a higher level of badge than most people here in Texas, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you were in Boston in the beginning, Gary, yeah?
Yeah, it was, Boston was a good fit. So basically I could have chosen a lot of areas, but I had a cousin. It was quite a long process to get the business visa. So luckily I had cousins in Boston that kind of helped me out with kind of dotting the I's and that kind of stuff, because it wasn't an easy process. And I went with a lawyer in England just because it was easier for me to get in and out of meetings with her and stuff. I could just pop into London when I needed stuff, but it wasn't an easy process. But yeah, I was in Boston for 2.5 years and loved it. But yeah, I just thought I just need to expand the business now. So I've kind of moved out to Chicago. My business partner is still in Boston. So we're going to try and hit both fronts. And then obviously with Brendan as well in Texas, I can get out to Texas and start doing a bit of coaching there, which I'm really looking forward to.
When I first spoke to you about the project, Brendan, you were originally going to do 3-hour sessions and now cut it down to 2. I'm guessing that's due to the Texas heat right now.
Yeah, Gary's been here a few times. I
Yeah.
met him in Austin, and he's been here at the house. He stayed with me and Grant a couple of times, and so he knows what it's like here with the heat. And I just over the years, coaching the kids, I just thought it might be an idea to cut it back an hour, and do 2 hours instead of three. Go early in the morning, 8 till 10, instead of to 11. So the same thing, really. 5 days, a week, except an hour less, and I think it works out better, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I've been here 16 years, as you know. You obviously can't be expected to be out in that field for longer than a couple of hours. And as you say, you're starting at 8 a.m. till 10 a.m. It's probably a good time. You get mid-afternoon here. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I think, Joe, when me and Brendan spoke about it, we kind of decided, didn't we? We're going to go for more quality than quantity. You don't want to flog them in that heat.
Right.
So, yeah, we're hoping if we'd rather have a really good 2-hour session than a kind of lackluster 3-hour session. I think that makes sense. And I think you learn more that way, because once a kid's tired, it's hard to kind of get things into them and kind of teach them stuff, when you've had a hard 3-hour day.
Yeah, my daughter, she's 11 now, but 3 years ago I did a camp here with her. You might know the guy, Brendan. This guy's called Steve Jennings. He's a Liverpool guy. Yeah, he's got a camp here, but the heat was, even then she was like, "Oh, Dad, I don't want to do this." She'd never played football, but
Especially for the younger
You know.
kids, because we're open 8 years old to 17.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that makes sense.
So what's the dates of the camps, guys?
August 1st to the 5th. So the first week in August.
Okay.
So
first
Gary
of
will
August.
probably come in a few days beforehand. We'll go over everything and
Yeah, that's right. It'd
have
be nice to
everything ready.
meet the other coaches and just put down a plan in place and kind of who's going to get who and stuff. And so, yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, is Michael Luna involved? Well, you guys know, yeah, Michael on the
yeah.
show last time. Yeah.
Yeah, Michael will be involved. He's one of the main coaches. We'll have Tyler Garner and one of the local coach, maybe the high school coach. But we'll see how the numbers go. But them four for sure.
I want to ask you both, how do you approach a session? Do you check what level the kids are before you start? Do you work on any particular techniques? How do you actually go about?
Well, it'd be a little bit different for Gary against me, because most of the kids that'll come to the camp, I would say 60% of them I will know already.
Okay.
So, I know what level they're at. Of course, for Gary, he's seen them brand new, so he'll assess them as he goes along. But, Gary, with Gary's expertise and his background in the game, I'm sure that's just after a few minutes, he's going to know who's in what group, But I will lead the way on that and, probably break up the groups. That'll be my job. And we'll go from there, and I'll fill Gary in on the technical side of each group and where they're at, where I think they're at. So,
Okay.
and Michael, of course, will have a lot of knowledge on what the players are,
All right, let's talk while we're on here about both your backgrounds. Brendan, you came to the States 1985, first as a player before moving into coaching. But tell us about your early career in Ireland.
Yeah, well, so originally my old man was coaching us. I had two older brothers that played, so he didn't want to coach three teams, and he was coaching. So I was playing up with Ballymun, who are a good football club in Ireland, and we were playing in a game, in an open game. I was about, I think, 11 or 12, and we were playing home farm. And that was my first, breakthrough to play with, a massive club in Ireland. So I played with Home Farm as a schoolboy. And then I went from Home Farm to Stella Maris. And then ended up back in Ballymun. And then, of course, my parents broke up. I went to England, lived in London for a very short period of time, for maybe about 2 years. Played with Leighton Wingate. They're like my Hurricanes, a semi-professional team.
Yep.
I was on the books at Leighton Orient for a while, but didn't break through. I'm still very, very good friends with Barry Silkman, who's an agent now, super agent. We keep in touch. In fact, I just spoke to him yesterday. And him and Bill Roffey were at Leighton Orient when I was there, and Frank Clark was actually a manager. But just never found my way, Joe. So it was my father's idea for me to come out to America. So I came out here when I was 21. And at that time, as you may know or not, but at that time, a lot of teams in America, not just Houston, but they would come and go, professional teams. So you had the Houston Dynamo, the original Houston Dynamo, when I came over. And right when I came over, I'd met the owner of that team. He lives around this neighborhood where I live. in Friendswood, English guy, and he's still around. He's an old man now, but the team folded after I signed for them after a couple of weeks, and it was a couple of years then longer before we had another professional team, or a year and a half, called the Houston Force. Signed with the Houston Force, and again, history repeating itself, and the team didn't last long. They were actually kicked out of the league because they just didn't have the funds and all of the stadium and all that stuff in place, and they wasn't playing their games in a proper stadium. So we waited a long time before we had another pro team in Houston. Didn't come along till the USL Pro, which was the Houston Hurricanes. Joey Serralte, also a really good friend of mine. Joey played with the original Houston Dynamos and played with the Puerto Rico national team, and he's the president of Puerto Rico football right now at the moment. And I played with Joey's team in USL for a few years, and then I bought the franchise from Joey about 12, 13 years ago, and kind of still have it to this date. But in all honesty, I think we talked about this on the last show, probably won't bring that team back, after the COVID. It kind of hurt us, the team financially and all that. And I just decided after talking to my family, I probably won't bring the team back. I'll just focus now on camps, doing one-on-ones. And I'm looking forward to partnering, with Gary doing camps, not just here in Houston, but all over. Come to San Antonio, Dallas, Austin, and just build on this and just this great opportunity for the kids.
Yeah, I also want to mention quickly, you mentioned Home Farm. A lot of famous players play for Home Farm. Ronnie Whelan was one. I think Steve Archibald too.
Steve Archibald, he played for them as well, which was kind of a strange move because he went there after kind of the end of his career and went over. Did you ever play in, I'm asking the question, did you ever play in Ireland, Gary, like with Home Farm or any of them clubs or no?
No, I didn't play for any Irish clubs. I played under 18s. We used to kind of obviously not play at the Lansdowne, so we used to play at St. Pat's Stadium. And one other that I can't think of, Shells maybe, I think Shelburne Stadium as well. I liked St. Pat's Stadium. It was kind of newish, and it was always kind of a good pitch, and it was a small kind of setup, but I was kind of used to that being at Luton. I started at Luton, so I was kind of used to the kind of the smaller stadium and stuff. But yeah, it was a good experience. Yeah, it was a good setup. You used to get a good crowd as well.
You were also born in Ireland, Gary, yeah?
Yeah, I was born in Donegal, and mum and dad moved over to Luton, just outside London, when I was 6. Didn't kick a ball when I was in Ireland, but quickly kind of got into it. I saw anyone does really in England, so you know yourself, Joe. Yeah. And so, kind of started playing when I was around 7 or 8, I think.
Okay, so Luton was your first club?
Luton was my first club, yeah. Like I said, I was a Luton boy, so I was brought up in Luton. Signed for them, kind of what you call a school of excellence back then. Just kind of a pre-youth team age. So probably from 9 till 16, I was at Luton. Just went through the various age groups, and then the kind of club makes a decision on whether they think you're good enough to become an apprentice, which you'd become at 16, like a 2-year apprenticeship. So I signed my 2-year apprenticeship. I did 1 year, and then on my 17th birthday, I signed professional for Luton. And then I think I'd already made my debut. I made my debut when I was 16 in what was called League One, but it's kind of like the 3rd division.
I remember Luton. It was Luton and Oldham.
The AstroTurf.
The AstroTurf.
Yeah.
The AstroTurf.
I suppose American listeners think that's kind of the norm, but no, in England it's definitely. Yeah, it took a little bit. I think I only got to play on it twice. Obviously, I played on AstroTurf a lot more times in training and stuff. But I played one game, I think a youth team game, and all I can remember is when the ball hits the ground and the sand and the salt just smashes in your face, and because that was very old AstroTurf. But it was great for Luton because it kept Luton in the top league for loads of, like, no one wanted to play there. I can remember going to see him play play Liverpool and smashed them 3-0, and just no one wanted to play on the AstroTurf.
That's right, yeah. So you went to Tottenham Hotspur after Luton, right?
Yeah, so I think I was 20, 21 when there was kind of rumours. I think it was around March, April time. I knew that there was a few clubs looking at me, and Tottenham were the one that was really interesting because it was a London club. The other two were northern clubs. So Tottenham was the one for me. I signed a 5.5-year deal because I think the season was just finishing, and I was able to get an appearance just because the transfer deadline had passed. But I got special dispensation from the the FA to make my Premier League debut right at the end of the season, and that was at Old Trafford. So yeah, I made my Premier League debut there for Tottenham, and then funnily when I signed for Norwich, my first game was at Old Trafford as well. So kind of had 2 Premier League debuts at Old Trafford.
So talk us through your playing career. Best players you've played alongside?
Alongside, I'd always say Roy Keane. Not just everyone says because of his winning attitude and all that kind of stuff, but no, it was more just he was a fantastic player. He kept the ball brilliantly. He was a great passer of the ball as well. Darren Anderton, another one. Robbie Keane, like Duffer. There's been some. I guess once you play for Ireland, then you're going to be with all the best players. Shay Given, there was Stephen Carr. There was some fantastic players. Darren Anderton, I was always a huge fan of. Someone that had an incredible career with all the injuries he had to get to the age he did. I think he was still playing at 37 down in Bournemouth. And yeah, brilliant. So I know I was lucky to play with some great players. But Roy would stand out as my favourite.
Toughest players you've played against?
There's been some big names, but would I say they're the toughest? I was lucky enough. Again, once you play for Ireland, you're going to play in international football. So I've played against Zidane, Ronaldo, both Ronaldos. Best player, I used to find probably the smaller kind of nippy guys, the kind of the tough ones. I'm friends with him as well. Andy Johnson, who's obviously you probably know him from Everton. I used to find him hard because Palace, and we used to grow up against each other as well. So I know I played against him a lot. I used to find that sort of player quite hard, like the Michael Owen, the Robbie Keanes, the kind of smaller, nippy Defoes, the smaller, nippier kind of players rather than the kind of bigger and faster players.
Because you played both as a centre forward and a defender, right? You played both positions.
Yeah, unfortunately, I look back and I think that's probably the biggest hindrance in my career. I actually did it from such a young age. I was doing it from probably 11 years onwards. And there was never a time where, I remember once my youth team manager said, I think you're going to be a centre forward. And that was it. That was kind of the only time a manager's actually said to me, he wants me there, whereas all the other ones kind of would push me into kind of different positions. And still, even when I signed for Tottenham, I wasn't, because I played the whole season as a defender. And then the last 5 games for Luton, I actually played as a centre forward and scored in each game. So I was like 5 and 5. So even to that day, I don't know whether Tottenham brought me as a defender or as a centre forward. I can remember going into the sessions not knowing. The defenders would go this side, the forwards would go this side of the pitch, and I'd be kind of stuck in the middle, and the manager would just decide what he wanted for that kind of session, you know. So, but I look back and I think it was probably a good thing as well. It got me a lot more Ireland caps. Having the centre forward one in my locker that I could come on for like the last 10 minutes and kind of try and change the game or make something happen. So I try and look at it positively, but it's hard to. Becoming a Premier League footballer in any position is tough, but trying to do it in 2 positions that are complete opposite to each other was tricky.
Let's talk about the coaching in the United States. More popular now, Brendan. When you came over in 1985, not many were doing it. I remember in 2004, I met Ian. Do you remember Ian Bishop? Played for West Ham, played for Man City. Scouser. I met him in Fort Lauderdale. When I was working on the cruise ships, he was on board as a passenger with his kids, and he just moved to Miami to coach then in 2004. What I was saying is, like, the coaching now, you know, Gary coming over, Brendan's been here since 85. There's a lot of coaches now, a lot of people making a career in coaching in the United States now, coming over from overseas. But there wasn't many back then, was there, when you first come over, Brendan?
No, there wasn't. And especially, Joe, like doing the camps and the one-on-ones, you know, nobody was doing that when I first started off, you know, and just to, you know, about Gary coming over in August about the camp, nobody of that stature is ever brought, and, you know, nobody's brought over someone like Gary to Texas before that's played in the Premier League to do a camp. So, you know, it is, again, I know I keep saying, a massive opportunity for the kids to get involved and have that time. And who knows, you know, we can maybe get them back again next year if everything goes well. You know, we can make this an annual thing and do it, you know, do it in all 4 major cities. And, you know, Dallas, San Antonio, do it, come down and see you.
I've heard it's beautiful down there.
Yeah, you got to bring Gary to San Antonio when he comes over for the camps.
I will. Hey, and Joe, you know, I know I'm changing it up here, but one thing Gary didn't mention there about one of his achievements, he won a European medal with Ireland That's something, he can tell you about a little bit. And that's kind of how we met to a mutual friend of ours, the goalkeeper in that game. But Gary can tell you that story.
Over to you, Gary.
Yeah, so like Brendan said, I was lucky enough. We were the first ever team to win a European trophy for Ireland. It was my under-18 team. We had a great squad. Brian Kerr was the manager. We had Robbie Keane, Richard Dunn, Damien Duff, Stephen McPhail. We had a fantastic team, and our goalkeeper was really good, a West Ham goalkeeper. And that's how I got to speak, like Brendan says, that's how I got to know Brendan. I think Alex is a relation, or there's some relation there. When I started, I think probably towards the end of my career, when I was getting to around my 30s, just when my Norwich contract was running out, I've always loved America, so I was kind of looking at maybe getting a move to America for my final few years. And that's where I got in touch with Brendan, who put the word around for me to MLS clubs and spoke to a lot of MLS clubs for me. But it just didn't work out for me at that time. But I really appreciate all the work you put in there, Brendan. That was great for me. And then once I knew I'd caught the bug, then it was just a case of waiting to retire and getting myself over to America. Like you say, for the coaching, I don't know if it's I think it's easier when you're a kid. Like if you get released by a club and you can get into the colleges, and then you can start your kind of coaching career after your college over here. But I think for coaches back in England, maybe especially ex-footballers, it's tricky to go over here to start your coaching. There's a lot of hoops you have to jump through. So it's definitely not set up or easy for coaches to come over here, especially I played for 20 years and I still found it took me 2 years to get my visa.
It's a shame because, it's great for the kids to have players like Gary come over and coach them, but it's very difficult to get the paperwork to come and coach. And then there's a lot of politics involved as well, where MLS clubs don't want guys like Gary coming in because they're scared he's going to take their job. That's with his background in the game. And I mean, it's the truth, sadly. But
I think this is going to be a huge success, Gary, over here coaching the kids. How did the parents contact you to book these camps, and what are the prices?
So we did the registration, the forms, and the banners for it. It's $225 for the week camp, which is a fantastic deal.
That's for the whole week?
Yeah, from 8 to 10 every day. So I know, what a deal. So we lowered the price down $100 because we took that hour off, because we thought it'd be just too hot out there for 3 hours. And like Gary said, it's about quality and, of time that you spend out there with the kids. So it's going to be a great camp. Looking forward to it. They can register online, go to the Facebook pages we have. Most of the kids that I've registered are the kids I'm coaching doing one-on-ones, and Michael Luna will be registering through his website and his social media pages. And of course, they can contact me directly. I'm more than happy to bring anybody an application, but it's easier just to send me an email, brendan@coachkeys.com, and I can just email the application. They send it back to me, and they can pay with Venmo, Zelle is preference. We prefer Zelle. So it just goes straight into the bank account and just fill out the form. And, it's that simple.
Yeah, I think you're right there. Social media seems to be the way to go these days regarding marketing and finding out more about a person or a business. So you got your Facebook, your Twitter, Instagram pages.
Yeah, so I'll do the event up probably this week. We'll start really hitting it hard so they can actually download the application from the Facebook page. And like you say, Joe, nobody ever goes to the website anymore. It's all done through social media.
It's all social media,
I've been trying to tell Gary that for years.
I'm not social media savvy, Joe, to be honest with you.
I mean, Gary doesn't have a Facebook page. I tell you, he's got to be the most modest man I've ever met in my life.
Yeah, Facebook's not.
One of the reasons why I like him.
You should set up just a public page. Just people just follow you. You should set up public.
I know that's well. I did. So I did set up an Instagram page, for Gary and me for the camp, so they'd be able to download that application there.
Right.
Gary don't do Facebook, so I didn't do that. They'll have to come to my page, Brendan Keys page or Key Soccer, and they can download the application there. Or of course, just email me. You can put my email out when we do the show. At the end of it, there's a description, and contact me on my phone number. All them details will be on on the social media page and my website, of course, coachkeys.com.
Okay. I also want to thank you, Brendan, while we are on. I was in Houston 2 weeks ago, did a show there. And thanks for taking care of me. He came down with our mate, Alan Kelly. Alan drove us around the town.
Yeah, Alan. He's in. Gary met Alan.
I know Alan.
You know Alan, right?
We've had some good laughs when Gary comes into
I
town.
know
We'll have
Alan.
to get him to San Antonio, mate.
Yeah.
I mean, San Antonio is something we've spoke about doing a camp. Hopefully it'll be next year. We'll do a camp in San Antonio, maybe in June or July. So we'll talk to you about that. And I've spoken to James about it. James.
James Hope, yeah.
Yeah, James Hope. And, they're interested in doing something with us. So hopefully we'll get Gary for next year down there.
For sure, yeah.
Okay, so the camp's August 1st to the 5th.
Yeah.
8 a.m. till 10 a.m. And just hit Brendan Keys and all the social media. As I said, this is going to be a fantastic opportunity for the kids here. So Texas listeners, all you parents out there, former Premiership footballer Gary Doherty, Mr. Brendan Keys, it's going to be a great opportunity, really, really is. But gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for your time, sharing this exciting new project with us.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks so much for having us on.
Appreciate you. Brendan Keys, Gary Doherty, everyone. Thank you, guys.
Thanks so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Bye-bye.